Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. I hope everyone is enjoying their day. Please subscribe and like the video before continuing. The Young and the Restless preview week of August 11th, Kane's surprise, Daniel's confession, Jack's impossible decision. The Young and the Restless spoilers reveal a preview clip has been released for the week of August 11th, 2025. It shows Kane Ashby, Billy Flynn, surprising Lily Winters, Crystal Khalil. Get updates on the latest news about The Young and the Restless, straight to your inbox. We use your personal data for interest-based advertising, as outlined in our privacy notice. What is this? Daniel Romalotti, Jr., Michael Grazadii, makes a confession. Plus, Jack Abbott, Peter Bergman, is forced to make a tough decision about the figure of Jabot. Keep reading and let's talk about what is coming up in the CBS soap opera. Daniel Romalotti, Jr.'s confession. Let's start off at the beginning of the preview clip. Daniel catches up with his dad. As the two share a heart-to-heart, the amateur guitarist tells Danny Romalotti, Michael Damian, that he's worried that he's developing feelings for Tessa Porter, Kate Fairbanks. Daniel loves Heather Stevens, Vale Bloom, so much. So, that might be one issue. Another could be that Daniel knows Tessa's wounds are still fresh from her separation with Mariah Copeland, Cameron Grimes. Danny tells his son that it sounds like Tessa means a lot to him. Of course, Danny has suspected this and it does make him smile. The musician very much would like to see his son happy again. What is this? Tessa must be having the same confusing thoughts about Daniel. However, they are adorable together, so maybe they can make a romance work. Y&R, Daniel Romalotti Jr.'s confession. Daniel Romalotti Jr. stood at the edge of the Abbott family's terrace, staring down at the glass of scotch in his hand. The faint glow of Genoa City's skyline twinkled in the distance, but he barely noticed. The party inside was a swirl of chatter and clinking glasses, a celebration for Chancellor Winter's latest expansion, yet for Daniel, the noise was muffled, replaced by the drumbeat of one truth he could no longer bury. He had a confession, and it was going to change everything. The weight of silence. It had started 3 months ago. Daniel had been working late at Omega Sphere Studios, tinkering with a new expansion for his video game project. His phone buzzed, a text from Heather. "We need to talk. Tonight. It's about Lucy." At the time, he thought it was just another parenting discussion. But the conversation spiraled into something far more devastating. Lucy had overheard Daniel on a call with someone in Los Angeles, someone he'd been keeping secret from everyone in Genoa City, even Heather. That someone was Ava King, an old friend from his days in California, and a woman who now claimed Daniel owed her far more than friendship. Heather had confronted him that night, but Daniel brushed it off, insisting Ava's claims were exaggerated. In truth, Ava held a piece of his past, a scandal from his brief time working at a startup in Silicon Valley, that could ruin not just his career, but also his fragile standing with his family. The gathering storm. The weeks that followed had been a dance of avoidance. Daniel buried himself in work, dodged Heather's sharper questions, and played the doting father whenever Lucy was around. But Ava wasn't going away. Her texts became more demanding. "You know what you owe me. If you won't pay, I'll make sure Phyllis hears everything." Daniel knew what that meant. His mother, already teetering between redemption and self-destruction, wouldn't take kindly to learning her son had been involved in a financial cover-up years ago. Tonight, though, the facade was crumbling. He'd watched Lucy laugh with Summer at the party, her eyes shining with trust. It had hit him like a gut punch. He couldn't keep lying, not to her, not to Heather, not to anyone. The unexpected witness. Daniel? The voice behind him was soft but edged with curiosity. He turned to see Lily Winters, her expression equal parts concern and suspicion. "You've been out here for 20 minutes, she said, stepping closer. "You okay?" Daniel hesitated. He and Lily shared a complicated history, former lovers, now friends navigating the fragile peace after his return to Genoa City. She could read him better than most, and the last thing he wanted was her suspicion leading her to dig deeper. "I'm fine," he lied. Lily's eyes narrowed. "You're not. I know that look. You're carrying something, and it's eating you alive." For a moment, Daniel almost told her. But the words stuck. "It's not the right time," he murmured. The first crack. Inside, the celebration roared on. Devon was making a toast, Jill was holding court in a corner, and Billy was laughing too loudly at something Chelsea said. Daniel slipped back in, but every laugh and clink of a glass felt distant. He caught Heather's gaze across the room. She was watching him, not with warmth, but with that same guarded wariness she'd worn for weeks. Lucy stood beside her, chatting with Johnny Abbott, blissfully unaware of the tension radiating between her parents. It was Summer's voice that broke his trance. "Daniel," she said, taking his arm. "You need to see this." She led him to a quiet hallway and held up her phone. On the screen was an email, from Ava King. Subject, tick-tock. Message, "If you don't come clean by midnight, I will." Summer's eyes were wide. "She sent this to me. Why? Who is she?" Daniel's stomach dropped. Ava had crossed the line. It wasn't just between him and her anymore, she was going after his family. The breaking point. By the time the clock hit 11 p.m., Daniel knew there was no more stalling. He asked Summer to gather Heather, Lucy, and Phyllis. The four of them met in the Abbott living room, away from the party, the tension palpable. Phyllis was the first to speak. "What's going on? Why are we having some secret meeting in Jack's house?" Daniel took a breath, the words heavy in his chest. "Because I have to tell you something before you hear it from someone else." Heather crossed her arms. "Finally." He started from the beginning, the Silicon Valley startup, the creative director role that had seemed like a dream, the investment Ava had made when the company hit a rough patch. How the company had collapsed, but he had signed off on documents that hid Ava's true financial involvement, effectively shielding her from losses while others went bankrupt. "I didn't think it would come back to haunt me," Daniel said, his voice shaking. "But Ava does. She says I owe her, and she's been threatening to go public." Lucy's eyes filled with tears. "Dad, why didn't you just tell us?" "Because I was ashamed," he admitted. "I didn't want you to see me as someone who cheats to survive. I thought I could protect you from it." The fallout. Phyllis paced the room, her expression a dangerous mix of anger and wounded pride. "You kept this from me? From your mother? Do you have any idea what kind of ammunition this gives people who want to take us down?" Heather's voice was quieter, but sharper. "You didn't just lie to me, Daniel. You lied to Lucy. That's the part one can't forgive." Lucy wiped her eyes, looking between them. I thought we didn't keep secrets anymore." Daniel reached for her, but she stepped back. The hurt in her eyes cut deeper than Ava's threats ever could. An unlikely ally. When the meeting broke apart, Daniel found himself alone again on the terrace. The air was colder now, matching the chill in his chest. "Quite the confession," came a voice from the shadows. Victor Newman stepped into view, his presence as commanding as ever. "How long have you been listening?" Daniel asked, wary. "Long enough," Victor replied. "And while your little scandal doesn't surprise me, I do see an opportunity." Daniel frowned. "Opportunity?" Victor smirked. "Ava King has been meddling in Genoa City affairs for a while now. I've been looking for a way to neutralize her influence. You may have just given me the leverage I need." It was tempting to let Victor take the problem off his hands. But Daniel knew the cost of owing Victor Newman a favor was almost always higher than the problem itself. "I'll handle it," Daniel said. Victor's smirk deepened. We'll see. The morning after. News traveled fast in Genoa City. By sunrise, Daniel had calls from Billy, Chelsea, and even Jack, all fishing for details. He said nothing. The confession had been for his family, not the gossip mill. Heather didn't come home that night. Lucy stayed at Summers, her messages to Daniel short and cool. Phyllis left him 3 voicemails, all variations of "we'll talk later." By mid-morning, Daniel made a decision. He drove to Ava's hotel. When she opened the door, she wore a smug smile. "I was expecting you," she said. "I'm done playing," Daniel told her. "Whatever you think you have on me, go ahead and use it. I've already told my family. You've got no leverage now." Her smile faltered. "You think that's enough to stop me?" Daniel stepped closer. "I think you've underestimated what happens when you threaten people I love. And if you push me, Ava, I won't just defend myself. I'll make sure everyone knows what you did, too." For the first time since this began, Daniel saw uncertainty in her eyes. A fragile peace. By the end of the week, Ava had left Genoa City. There was no big reveal in the press, no scandal splashed across the front page. The damage to Daniel's relationships, however, remained. Heather was distant. Lucy spoke to him, but the warmth in her voice was gone. Phyllis oscillated between defending him and scolding him. Daniel knew it would take time. Confessions didn't erase mistakes, they only started the long, uncertain process of rebuilding trust. As he stood once again on the Abbott Terrace, looking out over the city, Daniel made himself a promise: no more lies, no more secrets. Genoa City had a way of unearthing the truth, no matter how deep it was buried. And this time, he'd be ready. Jack Abbott's impossible decision. The Young and the Restless spoilers for the week of August 11th reveal that the preview clip also features Jack and Diane Jenkins Abbott, Susan Walters. The patriarch says that there is only one problem with the plan. It does require that the family put all of their faith and future of Jabot in Billy Abbott's, Jason Thompson, hands. Y&R, Jack Abbott's impossible decision. Jack Abbott stood silently in his private office at Jabot Cosmetics, the late afternoon sun casting long shadows over the leather-bound books and polished mahogany. The hum of Genoa City buzzed faintly beyond the floor-to-ceiling windows, but inside, the air was thick with tension. He had just hung up a call that left a bitter taste in his mouth, a call that forced him to confront the impossible. The crossroads. It wasn't often Jack found himself truly stuck. The Abbott legacy was built on his ability to fight, negotiate, and win. But today, he faced a choice that threatened everything he'd worked for, and everything he held dear. Across the table sat his daughter, Abigail, looking tense but resolute. "Dad, you can't keep pretending this is just business," she said quietly. "It's personal now." Jack met her gaze. "I know, Abby. That's why this decision is so hard. The problem wasn't just a business deal, it was the fate of 2 families, the future of Jabot, and Jack's own integrity all tangled in one impossible knot. A family torn. The Abbott family had been at war with the Newmans for decades, a rivalry that shaped the city's power landscape. But in recent months, Jack had tried to steer the company toward a peaceful merger with Newman Enterprises. The merger promised growth, stability, and the kind of legacy his grandchildren could inherit without the constant fear of corporate warfare. Yet the price was steep. The Newmans demanded that Jack step down as CEO of Jabot, a role he'd held for more than 30 years. "It's not just about the title," Jack had told his board. "It's about the soul of Jabot." Abigail was caught in the middle. As Jack's right hand, she wanted the company to thrive but not at the cost of her father's dignity. "Dad, I know you love Jabot, but sometimes stepping back is the strongest move," she said. Jack clenched his fists. "And what if stepping back means losing who I am?" Pressure from every side. The phone rang again. This time, it was Victor Newman himself. The call was curt and direct. "Jack, I want you to consider this carefully," Victor said. "You're not just handing me a company, you're handing me a city's future. Think about the legacy you want to leave." Jack's jaw tightened. Victor had always been a master manipulator, and Jack knew better than to trust a single word. But the truth gnawed at him. What was the legacy he wanted? A battlefield where enemies kept score, or a peace that guaranteed prosperity, but at what personal cost? The unseen cost. That night, Jack found himself wandering the halls of Abbott Mansion. Memories flooded in, his father teaching him the importance of family, his mother's fierce pride, his own early days building Jabot from scratch. He thought of Ashley, his ex-wife and the mother of his children, whose support had been a steady rock through countless storms. He wondered what she would say about this choice. More than anything, Jack feared losing the respect of his children, especially Abby. A surprise visitor. Just as Jack was about to retreat to his study, the doorbell rang. Surprised, he opened the door to find Victor Newman standing there, unannounced. "I thought we could talk," Victor said, stepping inside. Face to face. Jack narrowed his eyes but gestured him in. They sat across from each other, old rivals forced into uneasy conversation. "Jack, this isn't just about business. It's about legacy. Our families have fought long enough. This merger can heal old wounds." Jack stared. "And the price is my career, my name on the door." Victor smiled thinly. "Sometimes we give up pieces of ourselves to gain something bigger." Jack's mind raced. He hated the idea, but maybe Victor was right. The counsel of a friend. The next morning, Jack met with Nikki Newman. Despite their complicated past, she was one of the few people he trusted implicitly. "I've been where you are, Jack," Nikki said softly. "Letting go isn't weakness. It's wisdom. But what if it's a trap? What if this peace is just a prison?" Nikki's eyes softened. "You won't know until you try. And whatever you decide, your family will stand with you. They just want you to be happy." Jack nodded slowly, feeling the weight lift slightly. The breaking point. Later that day, Jack gathered his closest advisors and family in the Jabot boardroom. The air was electric with anticipation. He looked at Abby, then at the faces of longtime friends and colleagues. "I've made my decision," he began, voice steady but heavy. "I'm stepping down as CEO. Jabot's future is bigger than me." The room was silent. Abby's eyes filled with tears. "Dad." Jack smiled, a mixture of relief and sadness. "It's time to build something new. Together. A new chapter." Weeks later, Jack sat on the veranda of the Abbott estate, a glass of bourbon in hand, watching the sunset. The city was alive below, full of promise and new beginnings. Though no longer at Jabot's helm, Jack knew his influence was far from over. He was free to be a father, a grandfather, and a man who had made peace with change. Because sometimes, the hardest decisions are the ones that lead us home. Kane Ashby's surprise. Over at Kane's newly delivered train car to Genoa City, he sends out an invite to Lily. However, Lily walks in pensively and with a confused look on her face. Meanwhile, Kane is all smiles as he greets Lily with his twinkling electric blue eyes. He tells Lily, "Welcome aboard." "What is this?" Y&R, Kane Ashby's surprise. The summer sun poured through the large windows of crimson lights, casting golden hues over the familiar crowd gathered for the weekly book club meeting. Kane Ashby sat quietly in a corner, nursing a cup of black coffee, eyes scanning the pages of a well-worn novel but hardly absorbing the words. His mind was elsewhere, tangled with the secret he had been hiding, the one that could change everything in Genoa City. A secret too big. For months, Kane had carried a burden heavier than anyone could imagine. A surprise, unexpected and life-altering, was looming just beneath the surface of his carefully constructed life. It all began 2 months ago when he received an anonymous letter at the Chancellor Mansion. No return address, just a simple envelope with a single photograph inside, a picture of a young woman standing in front of a small country hospital in Australia, clutching a newborn baby. The caption on the back read, "Your son." The conflicted father. Kane's heart had stopped. He had never known that a son existed, a child he fathered during a brief, passionate encounter years ago, one he thought had ended without consequences. He was torn. How could he possibly explain this to Lily? To Devon? To everyone who thought Kane's family was complete? He thought about the little boy in the picture and a wave of responsibility crashed over him. He wanted to reach out, to connect, but every time he sat down to write, doubt and fear chained his fingers. The discovery. One evening, after a long day of work at Chancellor Communications, Kane confided in Devon, his best friend. "Devon, I've got something to tell you. Something I've never shared with anyone." Devon's eyes widened but he nodded encouragingly. "You can tell me anything, Kane." Kane took a deep breath and slid the photograph across the table. "I have a son. And I don't even know his name." Devon reached for the picture, studying it carefully. "Why didn't you say anything before?" "I was scared. Scared of how it would change everything, my marriage, my family, my life." Devon placed a reassuring hand on Kane's shoulder. "The truth always finds a way. But you're not alone." The decision. That night, Kane stayed awake, wrestling with his conscience. He knew the moment of revelation was inevitable. If he kept hiding, the secret would only grow bigger and cause more pain. The next morning, Kane woke up determined. He would tell Lily. He would share his surprise and face whatever came next. Breaking the news. At home, Lily was in the kitchen, preparing breakfast with their daughter, Charlie. She smiled when Kane entered. "Morning, love," she said cheerfully. Kane's smile faltered. "Lily, we need to talk." She looked up, sensing the seriousness in his tone. He took her hands in his and told her everything, the letter, the photograph, the son he never knew existed. Lily's face paled. "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" "I was afraid. But I want to be honest with you. I want us to face this together." Tears welled up in Lily's eyes. "This changes everything, Kane. But I love you. We'll figure this out." The search begins. With Lily's cautious support, Kane reached out to the woman in the photo. Her name was Emily, a nurse in a small town outside Sydney. Over weeks of phone calls and messages, they slowly built a connection. Emily revealed their son's name was Lucas, a bright, curious 5-year-old who had already shown interest in learning about his father. Kane felt a mix of joy and anxiety. The distance was vast, but the emotional bridge was growing stronger every day. Unexpected challenges. Back in Genoa City, word of Kane's secret began to leak. Devon and Lily faced questions from friends and family, and Kane's once steady reputation wavered under the scrutiny. Victoria Newman confronted him sharply. "Why would you keep something like this hidden? People will use this against you." Kane stood firm. "I'm doing everything I can to make it right." But the damage was done. Trust had been tested, and Kane knew rebuilding it would take time. A hopeful reunion. Months later, Kane arranged a trip to Australia, a surprise for Lily and Charlie, who were still processing the news but ready to support him. When Kane finally met Lucas, he was overwhelmed by the boy's bright smile and open arms. "Dad?" Lucas asked shyly. "Yes, son. I'm your dad." Lily watched from a distance, her heart full of hope and uncertainty. The reunion was bittersweet, a beginning filled with promise but shadowed by the pain of lost years. New beginnings. Back in Genoa City, life was slowly returning to normal. Kane and Lily worked on their marriage, integrating Lucas into their family plans. Kane's surprise had shaken their world, but it had also strengthened the bonds of love and honesty. As Kane looked out over the city skyline one evening, he knew that surprises might come unbidden, but it was how you faced them that truly defined you. Now, I'm wondering why Lily goes to his train car to begin with. Unless she decides to take Victor Newman, Eric Braeden, up on his proposition. The Newman patriarch advised Lily not to stay away from Kane, but to do the opposite. Victor hopes that it will give them powerful intel. However, Lily has been burned by Victor too many times before, so could she end up making a secret alliance with Kane? Which storyline are you looking forward to seeing the most during the week of August 11, 2025? Share your thoughts in the comments section below. Keep watching the soap on CBS or Paramount Plus to find out what happens next. The Young and the Restless, week of August 11th preview. Kane's surprise, Daniel's confession, Jack's impossible decision. The city of Genoa City simmered with secrets and suspense as the Abbott and Newman empires braced for a week that would change everything. From Kane Ashby's unexpected bombshell to Daniel Romalotti Jr.'s confession, and Jack Abbott's devastating choice, the city's most powerful families faced crossroads that threatened to unravel the delicate balance of love, loyalty, and power. Kane Ashby's surprise, a secret revealed. It was a quiet afternoon at Chancellor Communications when Kane Ashby's world tilted on its axis. An unmarked envelope arrived, its contents shaking the very foundation of his life. Inside was a photograph, a young boy with striking Ashby features and a note that read simply, "Your son." For Kane, the news was a shock that carried both joy and dread. A son he never knew existed, a child born from a past he thought was closed forever. The secret had weighed on Kane for months, and now, as he sat with his wife, Lily, the truth had to come out. The look on Lily's face was a mixture of surprise and concern as Kane revealed the letter and the photo. "How could you keep this from me?" she asked, her voice trembling. "I was scared, Lily," Kane admitted. "But I want to do this the right way, with you, together." The weeks that followed were a whirlwind of emotion as Kane reached out to the boy's mother in Australia, navigating the complexities of building a relationship with a child so far away. But the surprise didn't end there. In Genoa City, the news leaked, sparking whispers and raised eyebrows. Friends questioned Kane's judgment, enemies saw opportunity. Victoria Newman confronted Kane sharply, warning him, "Secrets like this have a way of destroying everything." But Kane was determined to face the fallout, knowing that this surprise, while unexpected, could also be a chance for redemption and growth. Daniel Romalotti Jr.'s confession, the truth comes out. While Kane wrestled with fatherhood surprises, Daniel Romalotti Jr. faced his own demons, a confession that could shake the Romalotti family to its core. Daniel had spent months hiding a scandal from his past, a financial misstep during his time in Silicon Valley that involved falsified documents and a woman named Ava King, who now threatened to expose everything. The pressure mounted as Ava's threats became public, forcing Daniel into a corner. He knew he had to come clean, not just for himself but for his mother, Phyllis, and for his daughter, Lucy. The moment came in a tense family meeting at the Abbott mansion. Daniel laid out the truth, the mistakes, the lies, and the fear that had driven him to silence. Phyllis's reaction was a mix of heartbreak and anger. "How could you keep this from me, Daniel? From all of us?" Heather was equally torn, feeling betrayed by the man she loved. But amidst the pain, there was hope. Daniel's confession was the first step toward healing, and his family's willingness to forgive hinted at a future where trust could be rebuilt. Yet, as Daniel wrestled with his past, the question lingered, would Ava's threats truly fade, or was this only the beginning of a darker chapter? Jack Abbott's impossible decision, legacy on the line. Meanwhile, Jack Abbott faced a choice that threatened to redefine not just his career, but his legacy. The merger talks between Jabot Cosmetics and Newman Enterprises had reached a critical point, with the Newmans demanding Jack step down as CEO, a demand that cut deeper than a business deal. Jack was no stranger to sacrifice, but this felt different. To relinquish control of Jabot was to give up a part of himself, the fight, the passion, the identity he had built over decades. In a private meeting with his daughter Abigail, Jack grappled with the implications. "If I step down, what does that say about me?" he asked. Abigail, ever the voice of reason, urged him to consider the bigger picture. "Sometimes, Dad, the hardest decisions are the ones that lead to a better future." The tension escalated when Victor Newman himself dropped by unannounced, sealing the pressure on Jack to choose peace over pride. "I'm offering a legacy," Victor said, "one where our families can finally unite and thrive." But Jack's mind raced with doubts. Could he trust Victor's offer? Was stepping down surrender or wisdom? In a rare moment of vulnerability, Jack sought counsel from Nikki Newman, who shared her own experience with sacrifice and letting go. "Legacy isn't just about power, Jack," she said softly. "It's about the lives we touch and the peace we leave behind." By week's end, Jack stunned his family and colleagues with a decision that would ripple through Genoa City. He would step down, putting Jabot's future above his own ego, but at a cost he wasn't yet ready to face. The threads weave together. As these three stories unfolded, the interconnectedness of the Abbott and Newman worlds became ever clearer. Kane's surprise added new depth to the Ashby family saga, Daniel's confession threatened to expose old wounds, and Jack's decision could either heal or fracture the fragile alliances in Genoa City. Each character faced their own impossible choice, reminding viewers that in Genoa City, every secret, every truth, and every decision carried the weight of legacy, love, and survival. What to watch for this week? Kane's reunion with his son Lucas in Australia and the emotional challenges that come with blending new family ties into old. Daniel's struggle with Ava King's looming threat and how his family rallies, or fractures, in the face of his confession. Jack Abbott's bold announcement about stepping down as Jabot CEO and how the Abbott and Newman clans react. Unexpected alliances and rivalries that will reshape Genoa City's power dynamics. Heartfelt moments of forgiveness, betrayal, and the unbreakable bonds of family. As Genoa City prepares for a week packed with drama and revelations, one thing is certain: no one's life will remain the same. The Abbott and Newman empires, long locked in conflict and passion, are on the brink of transformation, and every choice will echo for years to come.